you don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion new single, my hater, the big better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million, the devil, that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of What If Naruto Enters Fairy Tale Verse. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of Lanky Nathan on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Erza's vision began to blur as she gazed out at the train tracks through lidded eyes. The cart swerved around on the train tracks as she began to lose consciousness, her weight pulling the joystick off to one side as she fell. This normally wouldn't matter too much, but when the tracks were supported several hundred feet above a massive canyon, it made things a little more dangerous. Erza, are you okay? Casting a weary glance over her shoulder at Gray's concern, Erza struggled to speak up. Why, yeah, I'm okay. We'll be there soon. Gray leaned out the window, not at all convinced by the weak answer he received. Are you sure? You've been driving this thing for a while now, not to mention you just came out of a pretty hectic fight. Huffing, Erza propped herself up. I said I'm fine, didn't I? Just trust me. Pursing his lips, Gray conceded the fight. All right. Well, just let me know if you want to swap over. Erza let out a loud bark of laughter. I'd prefer to actually make it there by sunset, thank you very much. Wishing to quickly finish the conversation there, Gray pulled himself back in the window, blushing slightly. He was greeted by Lucy's curious eyes and Levi snickering lightly. Looking at her blue-headed companion, Lucy blinked. Why did Erza say that? And no reason. Shaking her head, Levi cleared up Gray's hollow answer. Gray drives like the old mages that have retired. I have never met someone so slow. Instantly seeing the funny side of things, Lucy slapped a hand to her mouth, rather unladylike snorts blowing from her nose. Blushing a little more, Gray turned and looked out the window, giving Natsu a good kick in the side to help with his discomfort. The boy just moaned while Lucy suddenly screamed something about someone losing clothes. Just then, the cart started losing momentum fast. Holding on as it swerved, Gray jumped through the window as the girls screamed in panic, obviously thinking they were going to the bottom of the canyon. Swinging around, Gray apologetically kicked Erza from the driver's seat, grabbing the control and pulling the cart straight, quickly losing what little momentum it had left. Gray sighed as it pulled to a stop. Looking over, he cringed when he saw Erza hanging by her arm, having been dragged through the dirt and rocks by the energy band still attached to her arm. Jumping down as Levi and Lucy looked through the window, they gasped as they saw Gray roll Erza over, the mage covered in scratches and small cuts. What happened to her? Thankful she was currently unconscious, Gray unclipped the band around Erza's arm and picked her up. Erza decided that her ego was more important than her health and drove the sea till she had not a drop of magic left. Opening the door, Gray dropped her in his spot and climbed into the driver's seat. What are you doing driving? Looking back at Lucy, Gray huffed. All right. Have you ever driven one of these things before? He saw her shake her head. He nodded his in response. See? You have no idea what to do and Levi doesn't have enough stamina to drive something like this. But what about Natsu? Gray sent her a flat-panned look. You honestly think he could drive while vomiting up all of the last week's meals? And say he even could, what then? Seeing Lucy pause then shudder, Gray smiled. So you see why I'm driving. Settling himself down, he strapped the energy band around and checked everything to make sure it was okay. Being cautious, he quickly went over everything again. Pausing, he just did a third check. Better to be safe than sorry. Hey, Captain Cautious, we leaving yet? Sending Levi a dark look, Gray finished up. I'll have you know that I've had one of these things fail on me before because I didn't check it. Rolling her eyes, the girl leant back in. Feeling a distinct lack of body beneath her feet, she looked down and noticed Natsu was missing. Quickly looking at the seat, she saw Happy was gone too. Then hearing a loud laugh, Lucy and her looked out the window. Waha! Catch you losers in clover sometime next week. Come on, Happy. let's catch that flying freak. I. Leaning out the window, Lucy screamed up at him while shaking a fist. Natsu, why didn't you take me? Feeling a jolt though, Lucy sighed and pulled herself back inside. At least they were moving. After a few moments though, she checked out the window if they really were. Wow, Levy, you weren't kidding. Gray really is a sloth. Sighing, Levy rested her chin in her hands and looked at Erza sleeping. Yeah, it's just a waiting game now. Moaning apathetically, Lucy slumped to the side. But what about the guild masters? We've got to warn them. Hearing a thump on the roof, they looked up. A blonde head appeared in the window and looked around in confusion. Pulling his head up, they heard him call out to Gray. Hey, why we move like snail? You low on magic too? Gray's exasperated sigh came back a moment later. No, time is of the essence, but I must learn the handling of this thing first before I can drive faster. Naruto snorted. Sometime, you just gotta adjust on the fly. Gray's patient voice replied after carefully dodging a rock. No, if I did that, we risk falling into the gorge. Then what use would we be? Lucy and Levy let out a giggle when they heard Naruto start to whine. But Gray, what use are we if we never arrive? I walk faster than this databao. Nope, I must take it. Wait, what are you? There was a thump and the wagon slowed to a halt. There was a scuffle and some muffled curses before Gray was thrown in through the window, landing on Lucy's crotch face down. Squealing, Lucy kicked him to the floor before sending him a dark glare. Gah, Naruto, you retard, what did you tie me up for? A distracted voice answered him as Naruto looked around the driver's seat he now found himself in. We never get there in time. I drive. It not too hard. Why you sure, Naruto? Turning, Naruto sent the girls a wide smile as they leant out the window. Yeah, I have us there in no time. Just follow the tracks, yes. Seeing them nod hesitantly, Naruto smiled and turned back. Alright, so this thing here turns the front wheels. Looking over, he saw the wheels twist from side to side as he moved the stick. Good. The lever on it though. Maybe to stop? We'll find out. This band thing though. Wrapping it around his arm, Naruto scrutinized it. The cart goes faster with the more magic they feed into it. I hope chakra works. Channeling some energy into his forearm, Naruto smiled as the cart gave a sickly lurch. Woo. Ignoring the unsure comments from within the cabin, Naruto tried again. This time, the cart whined horribly, fell silent for a few moments, then unleashed a loud noise that sounded suspiciously like a fart. An awkward silence fell over the group as Naruto paused. That was the cart, not me. The silence that followed didn't let Naruto know if they agreed or not. Shrugging, Naruto got back to it. He'd been through worse. Alright, keep a consistent flow into the power band, and we'll get going. Channeling some more chakra, the cart lurched, stalled, lurched again, and then exploded into a blaze of life as the unnatural fuel flooded the system. Naruto let out a peal of laughter that was overshadowed by the horrific screams of the mages inside the cabin as the cart shot forward and down the tracks. Seeing a towering column of bright red flames, Naruto knew they were coming close to Natsu. They were making great time too, aside from those occasional instances where he had to create a few clones to catch the cart as he accidentally drove it off the edge of the track. Yeah, there had been plenty of screaming and stuff, but outside of that, no real complaints on his driving. He was feeling pretty good about it. Levy and Lucy were also currently having a screaming contest in the back. Naruto would have joined in if he wasn't so focused on staying straight. They seemed to get louder every time he rounded a corner too. If there were any real words, Naruto couldn't make them out, but if that's what they liked to do with their spare time, that was cool with him. Finally, seeing Natsu and Erza come into view, Naruto squeezed the trigger and felt the whole cart lift up onto the two front wheels as the brakes grabbed. So that was the brakes after all. As the kinetic energy wore off, the cart slammed back down, bouncing a few times before coming to rest. Stepping off, Naruto pulled the armband off and stretched. Looking over, the flames had finally receded, leaving a very burnt-looking Erza lying in front of him, completely out of it. Hearing a loud slam, he looked over his shoulder as Levy, Lucy and Gray toppled out, all crying for some reason. Erza also followed, looking a lot better now than when Naruto first saw her. Looking over, Erza's eyes thinned as she saw the blonde. Good to see you could catch up. I assume you were driving. Naruto shrugged, easily replying despite the dark vibes aimed at him. Yeah, who else would be? And yeah, I catch up easy. Fast runner. Not answering, Erza stepped over the still crying pile of bodies and walked over. Looking down at the fallen wind mage, she nodded upon seeing him completely inactive. Natsu bounded over soon after, happy crowing about his victory and his general awesomeness. Oh yeah, I didn't need any help. Why? 'Cause I'm just the best. No biggie or anything, just casually taken out the head of Eisenwald while flexing my flames. Rolling her eyes, Erza let a smile onto her face as she let Natsu bask in the ambience of his own splendor for the moment. Hearing a shaky couple of steps behind her, she turned and saw Levi and Lucy walk up, clutching each other for dear life. Gray also walked past, too manly to accept any help but looking just as shaky. Looking at them curiously, Erza wondered what happened. Naruto might have been a dark child, but he could drive pretty well. When the two girls saw the unconscious wind user, they both sighed in relief. Thank goodness, this is all over. The drive, the fight, lullaby, just everything. Slumping to the ground, they kept hugging each other. Levi, what say we call this a day and go home? I'm very ready for a bath. Smiling, Erza allowed herself to relax a bit. It really did seem like things were going to be all right, and a bath did sound very inviting right about now. Looking back at Erza, her eyes hardened as she saw Naruto kneeling over him, patting him down. Oi, what do you think you are doing to him? Looking over his shoulder, Naruto sighed. I checked to try find flute. Threat not gone till flute gone. Falling silent, Erza still glared at the killer, agreeing with him this once. A sudden sickly roar behind the group, though instantly had everyone looking back over their shoulders. Ha 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 ha. You took your eyes off the ball, fairy flies. Lullaby will yet be played. Kejama had apparently awoken during the trip, and after everyone left the wagon, jumped in the driver's seat and floored it. Everyone dived to the side as he shot past, the flute captured in one shadowy fist. Yet another launched out and punched Naruto off the tracks, the boy screaming the whole way down as he fell. Get rid of the bastard that managed to break Lord Erza's wind barrier. Having him around any longer would be dangerous. Naruto. Levi and Lucy all ran to the edge, looking over it fearfully as Naruto disappeared into the black. Happy, go get him. Struggling to produce wings, Happy managed to create a set before they disappeared in a sparkle, just as quickly as they appeared. I'm all out of magic, sorry. Erza, Gray and Natsu, however, were just glaring after the disappearing cart. Damn it, how could I have let my guard down like that? Natsu, Gray, after him. Natsu nodded and took off with a wild cry, while Gray paused. What about Naruto? Erza shook her head. Something like that wouldn't kill him. Just follow that vehicle. Seeing him nod and begin chasing after Kejama, Erza turned to the girls. You two come with me. We'll follow at a slower pace. Glancing at one another, Levi swallowed before speaking up. We'd really rather wait to see if Naruto's okay if that's all right. Erza's gaze hardened. No, you will come with me. Naruto can look after himself. Flinching under her gaze, the girls tried again. Well, can one of us maybe stay then, just so he knows where to go? Erza's gaze turned positively stormy. I'll ask again, please come with me. Unable to withstand the harsh woman any longer, a terrified shiver ran down both their spines and they jumped to their feet. Okay, Erza-san, right away. That's better. Just as they started moving though, they heard a few rocks crumble away and Naruto popped over the edge, covered in dust, but otherwise fine. Gasping, Lucy looked him over. How did you get back up? Are you okay? Waving off the worry with a smile, Naruto nodded. Yeah, I hit a big rock and stuck to it. Just climbed back up. So, shall we go? Both younger girls sent him wide smiles and nodded. Erza merely turned away and began to jog. Smiling back at his two friends, Naruto ran up beside them and fell into a casual pace. He knew he should probably run ahead, but he didn't want to leave the girls here, especially while Erza was still that low on energy that she could pass out. Natsu seemed low on energy too as Gray, Naruto and his group all caught up with him near the small town of Clover. A couple of jabs from Gray quickly solved that problem though, the fiery boy rising to the challenge. Running through a large split in the mountains as the sun finally disappeared over the horizon, the group passed the now broken sea vehicle. Rolled onto its side, it looked like the engine beneath had been completely fried. Naruto's sweat dropped as he looked at it for a little longer. Chakra seemed a bit too potent for the machine. This now, though, presented a new problem. Looking around, Lucy frowned. So where'd Kejama go? It was Natsu's turn again to rise to the occasion, holding his head high as he sniffed around. Frowning, he looked over into the forest that edged the mountains and pointed. That way. Following his trusty nose, the group ran over into the trees, batting away low-lying branches and bushes as they pushed through. Popping through into a mini clearing, Naruto looked up in surprise. The view from the small hill was absolutely spectacular. It gave a full 180-degree view of the magnificent valley. Mountains rimmed the gorge, the very tips dusted with a light snow, the full moon creating a light show of sparkles from the frozen crystals. That turned to a light gray stone which then in turn became a beautiful, deep green as trees stretched as far as the eye could see. A little village sat in the middle of it all, blending in beautifully with the surrounding nature. From the closest edge of the town, Naruto could also see the train tracks disappear into it, apparently stopping there. All in all, the picture reminded him very much of his home. There he is. Looking over, the group saw Kejama standing in front of Makarov of all people, flute pursed against his lips ready to play. Eyes widening, the powerhouses of the group made to jump into action when the most peculiar person jumped in front of them. Everyone instantly jumped back, the only two people seemingly unfazed being Erza and Levy. SHH, the best part is yet to come, just watch. Struggling to understand what he was looking at, Naruto pointed a shaky finger at the human. What are you? The person in question giggled, the now apparent male's voice in a high falsetto, although it was clearly forced there. He was a rather overweight man with no sign of a neck or eyes, as his eyelids were mere slits. He had a dusting of blush on both cheeks along with bright red lipstick that clashed horribly with his balding head. A necklace made of large gold hoops adorned his neck, an unsightly pink singlet top stretching around his barrel of a chest. From behind him stuck a small pair of white wings, probably attached to the straps that held the top up. Pinstriped purple and pink shorts were worn beneath that, a pair of hairy legs sticking out from them, capped off with what looked like a pair of pink ballerina shoes. Oh, and you three are totally my type. So cute, especially you. Those whisker marks are just adorable. Hurriedly backing up against a tree, Naruto shivered as the cross-dressing man began blowing him kisses. Looking to Gray and Natsu for moral support, he found them suspiciously absent, having bailed the second the man's gaze was off them. Looking back, Naruto let out a small scream as he found the fat man now very close to him. Master Bob, could you please stop flirting with Naruto? Instantly taking advantage of the distraction, Naruto shot straight up into the tree above, clinging tightly to the uppermost branch, desperate to escape the unwanted affections. Awa, and here I was just about to introduce myself. He danced back down to stand in front of Erza, hands clasped in front of his belly. Erza-chan, how you have grown. You look positively delicious. Cringing, Lucy backed away, just as weirded out by the man as the boys were. This is the master of Blue Pegasus. Hearing Makarov say something, the group looked over and saw Kejama take a breath. No. Before anything could happen though, Natsu and Gray both found themselves trapped under Master Bob's arm in a solid headlock. Naruto, however, ended up with the short end of the stick, his body captured between the vile man's legs the second he touched the ground. How the hell did you move so fast? Let go. Hearing a voice, the group looked over at another man resting against a tree. Naruto continued to struggle to escape, but found the man too slippery to grab. Moisturizer or something covering his legs in a thick paste. Oi, we told you to just sit tight and wait. This is where the good part starts. Long, dirty blonde hair hung down over the man's face as a weird witch's hat sat upon his head, a spiky red dog collar wrapped around the base of it. A pair of dark shades adorned his nose, a couple of wrinkles visible from behind them. A matching dog collar was wrapped around his neck which led onto a normal gray, skin-tight shirt. A pair of black trousers disappeared under the bottom of that, and a simple set of sneakers stuck out from under the legs. Looking over in surprise, Lucy gasped as she saw another guild master. Master Goldmine? Well? Hearing Makarov speak, Bob mercifully let go of the three boys and floated away. Jumping back, each rubbed their abused body part and listened to the master begin his lecture. You want to play that thing? It won't change anything. Weak humans will forever be weak, no matter how much time passes. Weakness in itself, though, isn't always a bad thing. Humans are weak by nature. This is why we form guilds. We meet friends and family there. We thrive, we work together, and we survive. Everyone has their flaws, even myself, but as long as we are able to keep walking, together we will be able to find the strength to face tomorrow. Do this, and you wouldn't have to resort to something like that flute. Everything fell silent as Makarov's words sunk into the spiky-haired man's head. A soft gust of wind blew through the area before the soft clatter of something wooden hitting the ground reached everyone's ears. Dropping to his knees, Kejama bowed his head. I surrender. Running forward, the guild members surrounded their master in congratulations, Erza slamming the old man's head against her metal-clad breast, a loud clang sounding out upon contact. Naruto stayed back and watched them though, content to let them have their moment as a guild. Perhaps now, finally, this mess would be resolved. So, are you looking to join a guild or something, young man? We could use a nice set of strong arms and legs like your own. Like hell. Quickly resuming his place at the top of a tree, Naruto glared down at Bob, the odd man just looking up at him with a hand on his cheek, giggling away. Nothing but a cowardly bunch of cockroaches, the lot of you. Instantly on alert, the mages looked around as a vile voice filled the clearing. It was easily identifiable as demonic, the broken voice holding 2, 3, maybe even 4 different voices, each on a different vocal range. Staring skyward, everyone dropped their jaws as a gigantic purple magic circle appeared in the air, rapidly rotating above them as electrical arcs began firing from the center of it, striking whatever trees and houses were within range. What the hell is that? An oppressive weight began bearing down on everyone, the malicious intent making it hard to breathe. Gritting her teeth, Erza looking up at Naruto, her mind running a mile a minute. This feels exactly like what Naruto was producing. Why would a boy like him have the aura of a demon? I can't stand it any longer. I'll devour you all myself. In a final explosion, a pair of enormous wooden legs struck down, clawed feet landing on each side of the city. Mounted to those legs was a gigantic body, gaping holes all through its middle, converging into a massively wide wooden chest. 2 disproportionately long arms stuck out from its shoulders, each ending in razor-sharp claws. Topping off the monster, a twisted head stuck to the neck of the beast, 3 dark eyes glaring down at everyone, a long tongue licking its lips. Its long, pointed ears stuck out horizontally from its head, hiding just beneath a pair of mammoth horns, jutting up into the sky, its body easily towering above the mountains around. Swallowing, Naruto looked up at the creature in shock. Holy crap, that thing is even bigger than the Kyuubi. What the hell is that thing? Looking down, he saw Lucy pointing up at in shock, trying to comprehend what she could see. Master Goldmine seemed to have the answer as he replied. That must be a demon from the Book of Zerif. Hearing panicked cries, Naruto looked down at the town as the people fled for safety. Good, at least this way no one will get hurt. Wait, I thought that Lullaby was the flute? Hearing Lucy's voice again, Naruto tuned into the explanation. Nope, that monster is Lullaby. In other words, it's a living magic. That is Zerif's magic. Gasping, the girl turned her gaze skyward. No way, Zerif's magic. He's been dead for hundreds of years though. Why would his magic turn up here? Leaning a gigantic face in, Lullaby scrutinized its new prey. So, which of you want to be eaten first? If you know you have a tasty soul, please jump forward first. Raising a fist, Natsu cried back angrily. How about none of us? You want to eat so badly? Try fighting us for them. Hearing yet another group of voices, Naruto turned from his lookout point and saw a large gathering of people, all dressed in matching medieval knight outfits, flags upheld by a few of them with strange designs fluttering proudly above their heads. This guy isn't anything we can't handle. Men, onward with the attack. Letting out a loud cry, the men began charging. This managed to draw the attention of the titanic wooden beast. Raising a brow, the beast snorted. "Not even worth my time. Disappear." Inhaling a ridiculous amount of air, Lullaby exhaled and fired out a monstrous yellow beam of pure energy. It covered the distance from itself to the knights in a fraction of a second, hitting a mountain behind them and instantly making it explode violently, massive chunks of earth thrown everywhere. The ground rocked with the power of the blast, hundreds losing their footing and toppling over. Even a good 50 or so kilometers from the blast, Naruto still felt his tree shake around, the cries of Lucy and Levi sounding out as they toppled over. Frowning, Naruto sized the beast up. He certainly has a great deal of power behind that mouth of his. I wonder what else he can do. Hearing a cry of retreat, Naruto's sweat dropped as the formerly brave knights turned tail and fled. He couldn't blame them though. If there was ever a thing Iro Sennin taught him, it was that a tactical retreat can save your life for another day to plan a new attack. Hearing a deep chuckle, he looked back up at Lullaby. "You know what? I haven't had a good feed in a couple 100 years. I think I'll just eat you all at once. Sounds like fun. Come try it if you think you can." "Natsu, shut up. We're not here to provoke it." "What's wrong, Lucy? You scared?" "Of course. Who the hell wouldn't be?" Rolling his eyes, Naruto sighed. Those two were made for each other. Quickly scanning the area, Naruto nodded as he saw that crazy man Bob was missing. Letting go, he dropped from his branch, vaulting off several more before landing lightly beside the group. "Good luck, my prince." Shivering, Naruto ignored the well wishes from the fat man. Moving up behind the group, Naruto looked to Erza. "So what's the plan?" Not taking her eyes off the beast, Erza called out to the other guild members. "Natsu, Gray, with me. Naruto, you act as backup and support us as needed. Levi, begin writing some runes to trip it up. Lucy, cover Levi." "Understood." "Yes." "Well then, let's go." Just as everyone took off, Lullaby reared its head back and let out a deafening roar, the very air shaking with the power of the vibrations. Undeterred, Erza charged in, requipping out for the power of her Heaven's Wheel armor. Firing out her swords, she let out a satisfied hum as she heard the swords cut deeply into the surface of the beast. Gray came in next, placing a fist on top of an open palm as he charged his ability. Thrusting his palms face out, he braced himself as hundreds of long frozen spears exploded out, shooting up and into Lullaby's torso. Ice make, Lance. Rounding out the trio came Natsu, arms ablaze as he barreled into the face of the thing with a mighty punch. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Struggling under the rapid succession of attacks, Lullaby tried to step back, but instead found itself tripping and toppling over. Looking down with a frown, Erza tried to find the source of this. That couldn't be Levi. Runes take longer than that to write. So who? Naruto. Scattered around each giant foot of the Leviathan stood about 20 Narutos, all supporting each other as they held its legs fast. They let out a collective cry as it fell, diving out of the road as it hit the ground, many getting crushed under the massive legs and exploding into puffs of smoke. So that's how his ability works in battle, is it? Not too bad, I suppose. Turning her attention back to Lullaby, Erza flapped her polished wings as the monster lashed out with a massive arm, just barely missing her and turning the ground behind her into nothing but rubble. Natsu and Gray also dived out of harm's way as the arm swept around, trying to grab a hold of anyone. "You pests are really starting to piss me off, you know that?" Not replying, the group simply began attacking again. Any visible part of the massive wooden body targeted and slashed, stabbed, frozen or set on fire. Down with Naruto, the ninja dashed around the legs of the demon, strategically tripping it up and cutting it down wherever possible. Large rocks also found them thrown into its legs, chunks of wood being ripped from the main trunk as the sharp edges cut deep. Naruto was also keeping a close eye on the town, desperately trying to guide the beast's footsteps away from the houses. Growling in frustration, Naruto watched as Lullaby lifted a massive leg clear over his head, its shadow hiding Naruto for a split second before passing on. It seemed to be turning around and was moving away from the town, back towards where Kejama and Makarov had first spoken. Hearing dual screams of fear though, Naruto frowned and dashed forward. Tree branches broke off as Naruto kicked from them, rapidly catching and passing the now descending limb overhead. Seeing Lucy and Levi, Naruto flickered into existence beside them, grabbing them around the waists before vanishing with them just before the foot stomped down on their previous position. Landing a safe distance away, Naruto placed them down gently and looked at each of them in the eyes. "You okay?" Seeing them nod, Naruto stood up. "Keep doing whatever you do then. We need all help we can to bring the thing down." Turning, Naruto bent at the knees and then vanished in a flicker, a little whirl of leaves stirred up by his rapid departure. Holding a hand out to him, Levi lowered it as she saw him vanish into the distance. Turning to Lucy, she saw the girl equally shocked. Shaking it off, Levi stood. Now wasn't the time to worry about how close they were to death. Naruto and Erza needed their help. Shaking Lucy's shoulder, Levi managed to get her to stand. "Come on, we need to finish these trap runes. Just a few more and they'll be complete." "Why, yeah." Smiling, Levi then knelt down and continued her writing onto the ground, bright scribes lighting up as her pen dashed across the earth. Fire Dragon's Wing Attack. Unleashing a pair of powerful flames into the side of Lullaby, Natsu grinned as he saw large scar marks appear in the flesh of the beast. "Ha, you're pretty pathetic, you can't even catch a fairy. Ooh, when I get my hands on you, I'll squeeze you so hard your head'll pop like a grape." Dancing nimbly out of harm's way, Natsu cackled gleefully and spun around, pulling his pants down and mooning the monster. "Oh yeah, how you like that? 2 full moons tonight and one is especially prepared for you. Rah!" Crying out in anger, Lullaby swept its hands through the trees, flattening massive parts of the forest as it desperately tried to squash the maddening child. Dodging, Natsu landed on the giant's arm and began charging up it, rapidly drawing near to its furious face. Fire Dragon's Claw. Unleashing a devastating fire-fueled kick into Lullaby's face, Natsu laughed out loud as it fell backwards, once again having its feet snared by Naruto. "Damn you!" Ice Make Geyser. Suddenly, a towering pillar of ice shot up from the ground behind Lullaby, catching it in the back of the chest and piercing it right through, the top of it poking out the left-hand side of its torso. Howling out in pain, Lullaby's massive weight forced it down onto the spike, impaling itself onto the ground. Looking up in total fury, the beast reached a shaky hand up to grab the icicle. "Why, you filthy little maggot? How am I meant to play my beautiful tune now?" Crying out in rage, it snapped off the top half of the ice spike and screamed as it pulled itself from its anchor, its wooden body shrieking as it rubbed against the ice. Rising to its feet, it leaned back its head and took a breath. "I will not be beaten by a handful of wretched humans. Die!" Screaming, it unleashed a raging torrent of fire into the forest around, aiming mostly at the innocent people trying to escape. Ice Make Shield. Flashing in front of the fleeing crowd, Gray smashed his hand together to produce an astounding wall of ice, completely protecting everyone from the vicious flames. Letting out a slightly delirious laugh, Lullaby turned and kicked over a mountain, all 3 eyes flicking around as it looked for its next prey. What it didn't expect though was for all its flames to suddenly start spiraling away over towards Natsu as the boy inhaled. Down below, Naruto also watched on in shock, his eyes wide open as the boy actually ate the flames. Oi, 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 what the hell is going on here? He eats flames too. After managing to swallow the entire raging inferno, Natsu looked up at Lullaby, wiping his mouth. "Thanks for the meal, those flames were delicious. Haha, now I'm really fired up." "Why, you're a monster." Seemingly taking offense, Natsu raised a fist and shouted back. "How the hell can I be a monster with you standing right there? Perspective much." He then had to dodge as Lullaby launched a massive fist into the hill he was standing on, destroying it completely. Landing on its arm, Natsu began running up it again, ready for another attack. "Oh no you don't." Swinging in with its other arm, Lullaby slapped its hand against its arm in a desperate attempt to crush the teen. The move backfired though as Natsu just swapped limbs, now dashing up his other arm. Requip, Armor of the Black Wings. Flying in for support, Erza swapped her Heaven's Wheel outfit for a much sleeker one. A pair of leathery black wings now protruded from her shoulder blades, accompanied by dual sets of long, black shoulder armor sticking out from her shoulders by at least a foot. Her chest was covered by a dark metal bra. Shape-hugging strips of spiked metal sliding down her sides to connect with the large, matching hip protectors. A simple, black bikini bottom covered her modesty while thigh-high, black boots protected her legs. A single, long sword was clasped in her right hand, both though covered in elbow-length black gauntlets. Shooting past Natsu, Erza cut deep into Lullaby's side with a single swing, the demon opening its mouth in a loud roar of pain. Turning back, she saw Natsu nearing the head and cried out at him. Natsu, now. Got it, Erza. Fire Dragon's brilliant flame. Igniting both hands, Natsu brought them together, generating a massive fireball above his head, easily 1.5 times bigger than his own body. Swinging forward with a scream of effort, he launched it at Lullaby, the beast shrieking as it felt the superheated ball slam into its chest, exploding on impact. Rocking backwards, Lullaby didn't even try fight the pull of gravity as it collapsed into the earth, destroying acres of trees in the process. Laying still for a few moments, the demon finally let out a very agitated growl. Oh, you worms have done it now. I'm not even going to eat you anymore. I'll simply wipe you from existence. Eyes wide, Natsu took a step back. What does it take to put this guy away? Reaching out an enormous arm, Lullaby made to grab Natsu, when a tiny voice cried out and suddenly hundreds of glowing green words wrapped around its massive body, coiling also around the outstretched arm and slamming it back against its side. What is this? Watching all this, Naruto turned and saw Levi and Lucy where he had left them, cheering and hugging each other happily. Smiling, Naruto let his arms drop. Levi must have finished off her runes or whatever it was they were. Turning to look at the demon again, Naruto raised an eyebrow in respect. They may have just been glowing scribbles, but they sure were effective. Another idea began to worm its way into Naruto's head as he looked at the struggling Leviathan. If that was possible with those weird words, did that mean it might be possible with seals? He had seen them dance around during a major sealing while with Rasengan, so what's not to say that they couldn't wrap something like this up, then pull it into a scroll. Pulling out a sheet of paper, Naruto bit his thumb and quickly wrote down his idea, not having a pen handy. Folding it away, Naruto tucked it back into his shirt, finger already done healing by that time. Jumping up onto the beast, Naruto looked around and saw Erza alight opposite him, Natsu and Gray climbing up its side quickly. Get the hell off me, you vermin! Ignoring the protests, Naruto looked at the gathering mages. Well, that was good. How you eat fire, Natsu? Raising his eyebrows, Natsu blinked. You didn't know? I was taught this old magic by my father, Igneel. I'm a dragon slayer. Nodding his head, Naruto sucked in his bottom lip. That cool. I want to eat fire too. Laughing, Natsu propped up both fists on his hips. Ha, I'm the only one awesome enough to do that. Find your own food. That made Naruto remember his stomach and frowned as it let out a gurgle. He hadn't eaten anything today, save for breakfast and a few snack bars. Food was now high on his priority list. Feeling the ground beneath them move as Lullaby squirmed, Erza frowned. All right, we must send this creature back into its flute form. One last combined attack should work. Nodding, they lined up. Gray closed his eyes as he focused. Erza's sword began glowing black as energy charged through it. Natsu brought his arms back behind himself and Naruto created a clone, beginning to generate a massive blue sphere between the two of them. On an unspoken word, they all dashed forward and unleashed the power one last time into the howling demon. Ice Make, Saucer. HRRRA. Fire Dragon's Wing Attack. Odama Rasengan Big Ball Spiraling Sphere. As the attacks connected, the beast went up in a horrific scream, its voice shattering as its body dematerialized, exploding into a million brilliantly glinting pieces, the air filling with their soft beauty. Discreetly creating a clone, Naruto made sure that no one noticed as a small rat ran away. It sniffed around, running from tree remains to chunky unearthed rock as it searched. After a few minutes, it came upon a simple, skull-shaped flute with 3 eyes. Looking around, it made sure no one was watching and taking it in its powerful jaws, bit clean through the wood. A soft sigh drifted into the air as the deed was done. Watching it for a few moments longer, the rat nodded satisfactorily and in a pop disappeared. Oh yeah, how you like that? That's what a fairy tale mage is all about. Crowing over his team's victory, Makarov ran forward to Erza, Gray and Natsu, congratulating them on a job well done. Levi and Lucy also came running over from their previous position, joining in with the small celebration. Naruto, however, stood back, letting them have their moment. A great deal of him just wanted to jump into the middle of the fray and begin screaming like Natsu, but he restrained himself. That was what he would have done when he was younger, but he had matured since then. The strange presence he could sense somewhere nearby also had him a little on edge. It was probably just small amounts of leftover energy from Lullaby though, so he ignored it. Naruto, what are you doing standing over there? You were just as much a part of this win as these guys. Seeing Makarov pointing at him, Naruto raised a hand to his head, grinning sheepishly. Awa, it was nothing, Dedabeo. Nevertheless though, he found himself walking over to the group. Natsu instantly jumped onto him, legs wrapped around Naruto's shoulders as he cried out the heavens. Bah, to hell with maturity, that's for old people. Shouting out with Natsu, Naruto started jumping around, both boys ecstatic with the victory. Watching the two run around in circles, Makarov chuckled. Walking up beside Erza, he gave her a nudge. So, would you think Naruto would be a good addition to the guild? The woman's eyes instantly darkened. I personally would protest that. He openly admitted to killing the enemy. Raising an eyebrow, Makarov looked over at Naruto, the boy now taking Natsu for a ride through the trees. Someone so young to have taken a life? It hasn't seemed to impact on him as much as it could have though. He seems stable enough. Shaking her head, Erza pushed her case. But that goes against everything we stand for. No death, no matter what. Shrugging, Makarov didn't answer for a little bit. He had noticed the animosity between his Requip Queen and the new blonde since he first saw them in Clover. Looking up, Makarov decided to push things along to a conclusion. Well, perhaps you could speak with him for me? I trust you'll interview him in an unbiased manner. Gritting her teeth, Erza calmed herself. She couldn't refuse a request like this. Yes, master. I shall speak with him immediately. Chuckling to himself, Makarov watched as Erza walked off, clothes glowing back to normal as she neared the boys. Naruto watched as Erza neared them from the corner of his eye. He had watched her and the guild master's discussion, and it seemed the old man had decided to resolve the dispute now. Naruto, come with me if you please. Looking down from his head, Natsu pouted and shook his head. Nah, Erza, why does he have to leave now? It was just getting fun. Something glinted angrily in Erza's eye as her voice dropped. Please. Eeping worriedly, Natsu leapt from Naruto's shoulders and ran off, not wanting to start something he couldn't finish. Brushing past Naruto, Erza walked off into the trees behind him. Shrugging, Naruto raised his hands to clasp behind his head casually, following the red head. After a short walk, Erza turned around and looked into Naruto's eyes. All right, I will be blunt about this. Master Makarov wants to ask you to join the guild. I personally oppose this, but as requested, I will conduct the interview. Naruto, would you be interested in joining? Pausing, Naruto had a quick think. Something like this may have been an instant choice to anyone from Fior, but Naruto still wanted to get home. Hell, he wasn't planning to stay more than a few days there. Such an offer though was a prestigious thing. Slightly closing one eye, Naruto bit his tongue. I am interested, but I can't say yes or no now. It's a big choice. Nodding, the answer seemed to sate Erza for the moment. That is fine. I will tell you the rules now though, in case you decide to. Fairytail is a guild of the light, a guild a part of the Guild Masters League. We pride ourselves in upholding the law and treating everyone fairly. Once affiliated with us, you cannot join any other guild unless you quit or are expelled. Narrowing her eyes, Erza's glare deepened. Now listen closely to this part. We have a strict no-death policy. We do not kill, under any circumstances. Would you be able to conform to this? Bright blue eyes seemed to peer into her soul as Erza glared, seemingly searching for something. After a moment, Naruto dropped his arms. You had a hard upbringing, didn't you? Cursing herself for flinching, Erza steadied herself. That has nothing to do with this. Don't avoid my question. Naruto smiled. But it answers mine. I wondered why you dislike me so. You seem stable now, but you are like me. You had a hard life. Frowning, Erza bared her teeth. So what if I did? You couldn't understand, so stop asking. I wouldn't tell someone I just met that either. Shaking his head, Naruto sat down on a rock behind him in a disarming gesture. You'd be surprised what I understand. I know pain, loneliness, hunger, abuse. Did you go through that? Unbidden memories of Erza's childhood flashed through her mind as Naruto spoke. The pain of losing her eye and friends to her tormentors, the loneliness of solitary confinement for trying to break out of the slave tower, the hunger from tiny meals for days on end, and the abuse inflicted by the accursed whips the guards had to make them work faster. Shaking her head, Erza took a breath. That is in the past. I have grown up with that and have learnt to ignore it. Smiling again, Naruto sighed. That not very healthy. I wonder though, have you had to kill too? Erza's minute eye twitch was enough of a giveaway to Naruto. You have, haven't you? Snarling, Erza glared at Naruto. No, they died because of the other prisoners. I just opened up a path. So you were a slave. Faltering, Erza quickly snapped her mouth shut. Glaring at the boy, she stood up straight again. For how dumb he acted, he was very perceptive on some things. Choosing to ignore the hostile movement, Naruto leant back, answering Erza's unasked questions. I had hard life. Your eyes are a bit like mine, so that how I can tell. I had no friends, family or anything as I grew up. Everyone hated me for something I never did. I was completely alone and had to learn fast. I was pickpocket and thief after I was kicked out of orphanage. No one helped me if I hurt. I had no one. You had friends though? Hearing the brief glimpse into Naruto's past, Erza found herself accepting that Naruto may have been able understood some of her pain. Steeling herself, Erza regained her composure. I had good friends, but they are safe now. Smiling, Naruto nodded. You would die for them? You killed for them too. Snarling again, Erza bared her teeth. I did not kill anyone. It seemed that was a very sensitive spot for the redhead. Trying to approach the topic from another route, Naruto started speaking softly. Why do you hate those who kill then? Snorting, Erza crossed her arms. They are animals. Anyone who takes another's life is scum. Nodding, Naruto probed in. Sort of like guards. Growling at the memory, Erza nodded. Exactly like the guards. Those wretched beings don't even deserve the title of human. Nodding again, Naruto pressed on. So, because I kill, I like guards. Pausing, Erza contemplated the new angle on things. She had never really considered that before, merely grouping killers together unconsciously. Well, no, but it's still not right. Naruto tipped his head to the side. But I did it for my friends. I'd rather die, or the bad guy die, rather than my friends. Would you die for Natsu, Gray, or anyone else? Scoffing, Erza turned an insulted eye to the blonde. What do you think I am? Of course, I would die for any of them in an instant. So if it a choice between them or bad guy, who you kill? Pausing, Erza frowned. Neither. Leaning in, Naruto pressed gently. But if Natsu was about to die, what then? Shaking her head, Erza refused to give up. I won't have you try and talk me into killing someone. It is wrong. Smiling gently, Naruto shook his head. No, that not what I saying. I saying, you not a monster for protecting your friends from evil. I not a monster, and I in business where death is almost completely guaranteed. Killing is never fun. You should be scared if it is. But if it for your friends with no other way, it not bad. Falling silent, Naruto watched as Erza processed the information. She opened her mouth a few times to say something, but found the words lacking. Seeing her need time, Naruto stood and stretched. I let you think for a bit, but just know, killing to protect your family does not make you scum. Turning and walking out, Naruto left Erza to consider what was said. Stepping out into the open area, Naruto looked down and saw Makarov looking up at him, a small smile on his face. You and Erza seem to have cleared things up? Naruto shrugged noncommittally. We spoke. Nodding, Makarov started speaking. Well, good. I'll tell you a little secret if you can keep one. Looking down, Naruto nodded once. If there was anyone who could, it was definitely himself. Erza had a hard life. When she came to the guild, she was quiet and reclusive. No one knew a thing about her until Gray, I think it was, spoke with her and got her to open up. She grew a great deal more after that, but I could tell that things had happened that she still hadn't spoken to anyone of. I tried to coerce her to telling me, but I lacked a certain finesse on the topic someone in her position would have had. She continued to bottle up the deepest emotions, and I worried about how they would affect her. Closing an eye, Makarov looked up at a frowning Naruto. I knew you had to have at least indirectly killed someone before. Reflexes like what you displayed when you first woke up weren't something someone can gain without having had their life in danger multiple times. I also saw that strange knife you pulled from your pocket when Erza first made to attack you after you hurt Lucy. Blushing, Naruto scratched a cheek. I don't blame you for that. What I did see though was how you held the knife. It wasn't out for show. It was hidden behind your leg, ready to be brought through for a surprise, debilitating attack, was it not? Frowning, Naruto's respect grew for the small, unassuming man. To have noticed all this without having been exposed to it before took someone of great skill. I myself haven't had to kill anyone, which is one of the reasons Erza came to Fairytail. It is a rule that the members themselves created over time, mostly with people in Erza's position coming in to escape death. I can understand your perspective, however, and only someone like yourself could have spoken to Erza like that. So for your help there, I thank you. Naruto smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. I just had good teacher. I simply told Erza what he told me. Smiling, Makarov motioned for Naruto to follow him back over to the group. Well then, your teacher must have been very wise to have you grow up so well. You were lucky. Smiling a little wider, Naruto nodded. Sure was. Reaching the group, they noticed Levi and Lucy staring at something in shock, while Gray just shook his head and Natsu laughed out loud. Natsu laughing like that never meant anything good, so Makarov stepped forward. Natsu, what have you done now? Pointing, the boy kept laughing. Me? You mean us? We destroyed the guild master's meeting hall. What? Looking past him, Makarov saw a gaping hole in the ground that was surrounded by rubble, right where the building used to stand. No, not again. Fading into shock, Makarov seemed to pass out on his feet, unable to believe that his kids had destroyed yet another building. Angry shouts sounded out as the villagers began returning, and upon seeing the lack of the hall, turned their anger towards the Fairytail members. Someone capture them. They need to pay for this. Don't let them escape. Seeing the group advance, Naruto backed up cautiously while Erza dashed past him and picked up Makarov. Everyone, tactical retreat. Yes, sir. Sprinting around the angry group, the Fairytail mages avoided the grasping hands and charged off towards the train tracks. Turning, Natsu called out over his shoulder as he ran, "You guys can take care of Kejama. Catch you later." Retracing their steps, the mages took to casually walking the train tracks, their sea vehicle trashed. Makarov had awakened from his stupor, and though he grumbled a bit after, he was still proud of his ragtag group. Naruto took to walking towards the back of the group, looking up into the morning sky as the first rays peeked over the horizon. Sighing, Naruto let his thoughts wander as he walked, letting the chatter around him become background noise. Now that that horrible mess with Lullaby really was over, Naruto had to think about getting home somehow. He guessed the key to his return was to be found in where he arrived. Sure, it'd be easy if Kakashi was here, he could just send him back, but the man hadn't appeared for some reason. Closing an eye in thought, Naruto wondered about that invisible spot where Kakashi's chakra was collected. If he could somehow open it, it was almost a given that he'd be able to get home by following the trail. Perhaps reverse engineering it with seals might work. It was worth a shot, even if it'd take a while. Naruto was pulled from his thoughts as Levi and Lucy dropped back beside him, neither talking but looking like they wanted to. Smiling in his all-inclusive way, Naruto raised his hands behind his head. Hey, so how are you? They both looked up shyly and nodded before turning their gazes back to their feet. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto looked down at Levi. What wrong? Eyes widening, Levi raised her hands and waved them around in front of her chest. Nothing, no, nothing. The reason we came back here is to say thanks. Chuckling, Naruto smiled. That okay. I just did for you what I'd do for any of my friends. Lucy looked up this time. Well, we still thought we should say it anyway. You really did save our lives there. Nodding once, Naruto shrugged. Well, my pleasure. I happy you okay. Naruto then found himself with a set of arms wrapped around his neck as the slender blue-headed girl turned and wrapped him up in a warm hug, placing a kiss on his left cheek. We're only okay because of you. Letting go, Levi backed off from a slightly shocked Naruto as Lucy stepped in and wrapped her own arms around the boy. Thank you. Leaning forward, she then placed a soft kiss on Naruto's other cheek and turned, blushing violently as she let go. Naruto didn't move, his brain trying to work out what had just happened. His face started glowing when he finally registered the soft presses against his cheeks. A grin slid onto his face and his eyes grew a bit lidded as he nodded happily. If this what I get when I save you, I hope I save you many more times. Both girls giggled and gave him one last thankful look before jogging back up to the front of the group. A soft weight alighted on Naruto's shoulder as they left, and he turned, seeing Happy staring at him with wide eyes. The cat grinned and patted Naruto's head. They Miki IQ. Snorting, Naruto shook his head. It a one-off thing, cat. I wouldn't complain if they did it again though. Letting out a laugh, Happy rolled over onto his back. Ha, I was wrong, you like them. Flicking the animal's nose, Naruto grinned lopsidedly. Who wouldn't like some of that? Falling from the sturdy shoulder, Happy rubbed his nose. Maybe I should get Natsu to come hug you then? Feeling a little grossed out, Naruto shook his head. No, I okay. No need for man hugs. Happy tilted his head in confusion. I don't get it. I get hugs off Natsu all the time. Laughing, Naruto reached out and scruffed the cat's fur. You cat though. That okay. Ah. Not quite understanding, Happy fell silent for a moment before a strong voice called out to him. Happy, could you leave us for a moment? I'd like to speak with Naruto alone briefly. Seeing Erza, the cat nodded and floated up front, but not before turning and saying, She likes you. Dodging a half-heartedly thrown rock, the cat laughed merrily and swooped away to land on Natsu's head. Smiling at the retreating cat, Erza smoothed her face as she began walking beside Naruto. It seemed like these last few moments had been good for confessions. They didn't look at each other, Erza trying to find the words while Naruto just waited patiently. It took a moment though, but Erza eventually broke the silence. Thank you. Naruto nodded in her direction. You welcome. They fell silent for another few moments before Erza looked at the blonde. Where did you come up with that view on death? Did you work it out? Shaking his head, Naruto smiled. No, that was my teacher. He was a pervy old thing, but a very good ninja. I went on a long trip with him and during that time, he explained killing to me. I only kill a few people, but he killed hundreds, maybe even thousands in Great Ninja War. Anyone who kills needs to know that they are not monster for doing what they have to. Erza's eyes widened at this. War? I don't think we have ever even had a real war here. Plenty of battles, but nothing major like that. Naruto smiled grimly. You never seen war in this country, ever? Then I hope you never do. I haven't seen it, but I see enough to know it not nice. I hope you never have to kill either. But you already have, haven't you? It was a statement more than a question. Erza dropped her head as her fringe covered her eyes. She sighed and a barely audible answer reached his ears as she finally confessed. Yes. Not saying anything, Naruto realized it was taking a lot for Erza to say even that, so waited. When we broke out of that accursed tower, that was the first time I used my magic abilities. I had an old friend in there who was a lot like a father to me. He was killed at the beginning of the riot. I telekinetically lifted a sword and thrust it through the chest of the guard before I even knew what happened. A little later after that, I saw one of my young friends have his entire jaw blown off by a mage there. I don't know what happened, but the mage was dead soon after. Then after that it just gets blurry. All I can remember is blood, pain, suffering, and death. Erza took a moment and collected herself. When I escaped, I couldn't understand why I turned into someone similar to the guards and killed other people. I reached the mainland, but no one could understand what I went through, and no one could help me through it. I guess this is when I bottled everything up. Finally turning and looking at Naruto, she had a soft smile on her face. Thank you for clearing that up for me. I still stand by my no-killing rule, but at least I can somewhat see your perspective on things now. Reaching out, Naruto slung a single arm around Erza and pulled her in for a light hug. It okay? I'm just happy I could help. Leaning in briefly, Erza nodded and pulled away. I wish no one would ever kill, but I suppose it's unavoidable sometimes. Naruto nodded, smiling gently. Yep, you just keep your rule though, because that is who you are now. Smiling, Erza nodded. Indeed. Oi, where's that windy bastard? Looking around, Natsu squinted as he tried to spot Erza. He was right here, I swear. Looking around, Erza frowned. Did you tie him up, Natsu? Looking back, the boy cocked an eyebrow. With what? Growling, Erza reached out and slapped the back of his head. That's why he's not here. He must have woken up and escaped. Stupid boy. Pouting, Natsu rubbed his spot. But I didn't have anything to tie him up with. Scowling, Erza began ranting at him again. Naruto, however, looked around suspiciously, so that must have been what was following them since Clover. Walking over to Makarov, Naruto stretched and looked down at him. I just gonna go for a walk, clear my thoughts. Whatever. I'm not your master. Do what you want. Grinning, Naruto nodded. Turning, he jumped from the tracks, landing on a tall rock spur 50 feet away. Touching down on it, he flashed to the next one and quickly disappeared. Lucy and Levi noticed his departure and looked at Makarov. Where is he going? The small man shrugged. He went to clear his head or something. I don't really care, he's not a part of the guild. Looking out over the spurs, the girls frowned but didn't push it any further. Landing on a large flat plateau, Naruto turned and looked back behind him. You can come out now. I know you're there. Hearing a gravely chuckle, Naruto watched as Erza seemingly flickered into the air above him. The man was covered in a great many burn marks, and where there wasn't burns, there were small cuts and grazes, all crusted over after his fight with Natsu. Well now, that's a bit of a surprise. I didn't realize you could sense people. Naruto shrugged, not once letting his eyes off him. I have a few tricks. What do you want and why are you following us? Erza snorted and spat a filthy wad of something off to the side. Bah, what would I want with some weak-willed guild like them? Pathetic bunch. What I was following was you. After that first hit you landed on me, I thought it only fair if I repay you first before going back for that flame kid. Naruto just glared back up at him. Say I let you vent your anger on me? Would you let Natsu go? Throwing his head back, Erza let out a loud laugh. Let him go? Are you completely stupid? Hell no. After I kill you, I'll make sure to kill him next. Clenching his fists, Naruto frowned. So you won't let Natsu go for nothing. Leering down at the blonde, Erza shook his head. Nope, never. Once I have someone in my sights, I will kill them, one way or another. And I'm first? Pulling his giant scythe out in front of him, a maniacal shine lit up his eyes. Yup. And damn am I gonna enjoy this. Preparing to attack, he was startled by Naruto holding out a hand. Do you seriously think you can beat me as you are? I'm far stronger than Natsu. Growling, the former guild master glared at him. Of course, and what the hell are you on about? Stronger than flame retard? I watched you fight Lullaby. You did nothing but trip it over. Lowering his arm, Naruto shook his head. That was their fight. Erza wanted to lead with Gray and Natsu, so I let them. You fight me now, though. Naruto trailed off as a blue tinge began to surround his body. I will not hold back. Big words for the backup team. You're as useless as those two girls. Glaring at the depraved man, Naruto clenched his teeth. They were a big help in beating Lullaby. You just can't see practical use of something like that. Gripping his scythe, Erza grinned. That's because there is no need for weaklings like that. Now die. Swinging his massive scythe, Erza cackled loudly as a nearly invisible line of air shot down towards Naruto, chopping the blonde as well as the rock he was standing on clean in half. The laughter stopped though when a puff went off and a diced rock lay in Naruto's place. I give you one more chance. Stop, or I stop you. Spinning around, Erza growled. You don't get it, do you? I won't ever stop, not ever. Clenching, Erza was bathed in the purple light of his magic as he curled up. Storm male? Naruto watched on as a gust of wind rapidly picked up around him, all of it spiraling towards Erza as he disappeared inside a whirling mass of air. He laughed from inside his cocoon as he saw Naruto looking up. You scared brat? This is the ultimate wind defense. Nothing can break through. Storm shred. Holding out his hands, a purple circle appeared before him before thousands of tiny wind blades shot out towards Naruto at high speed. Watching them come in almost in slow motion, Naruto merely stepped around them like they were floating to the ground. Erza's continuous laughter filled his ears as he easily avoided the blades, the fact Naruto hadn't been cut to shreds not occurring to the man. Moving through the attack, Naruto decided enough was enough and jumped. Flickering into existence beside Erza, the mage didn't even notice the rapid movement as a thunderous punch exploded into his face, rocketing him down to crunch deep into one of the rocky spurs, the hard granite giving way under the force of his body. Coughing loudly, blood gushed from his mouth as several broken ribs punctured his lungs, the entire right-hand side of his face ballooning out instantly from the multiple fractures. The storm male dissipated as he lost control, the howling winds fizzling out to nothing in a second. Painfully looking up through his one unswollen eye, Erza looked up at Naruto as he landed on a spur before him, a mixture of confusion and fear on his face. Spitting out a tooth, the mage glared at the blonde. What the hell was that? How did you break through my defense? And where did this strength come from? Naruto looked at his arm as he casually raised it. The dark mage's eyes widened as a small tornado sprung to life around it, Naruto carelessly inspecting it like he would his fingernails. I copied your barrier back in Ashibana. I just modify it. Thanks for the idea. I guess a stronger wind can break weaker wind. As for my strength, I already told you I'm stronger than Natsu. Ninja don't reveal personal secrets if not needed. Sometimes, not even then. Erza growled as he saw the replica. How did you do that? Your magic is self-replication. Cutting off the flow, Naruto looked at him. Who told you that? Groaning in pain, Erza fought off the urge to pass out and pulled himself from the rock. Climbing up, he panted as blood filled his lungs. Reaching the top, he held himself up by his scythe and glared at the blonde. Spitting out more blood, he coughed. I saw you with my own eyes. No one needed to tell me anything. Naruto nodded. That was one ability, yes. But I'm not mage, I'm ninja. I can do far more than just that. Impossible. Naruto shrugged. Believe what you want. Growing frustrated with the pointless chit-chat, Erza tried to reactivate Storm Male but ended up wincing at the strain it put on his body. Hearing Naruto sigh, the mage scowled. So, do you want to keep going? You know I beat you. Fury rising in his chest at being spoken down to by this whelp of a child, Erza lost it. Completely ignoring his pain, he forced his Storm Male to life around him in a blaze of rage. Shut the hell up, you pathetic dog of fairytail. I will never stop, and I will kill you, even if it kills me. Throwing his hands out before him, he extended his index and middle fingers before crossing them before him in the shape of an X. Green speed. Instantly, a giant barreling windstorm roared its way towards Naruto, shredding up rocks for hundreds of meters around due to the strength of the gale. Sighing, Naruto shook his head. I gave you your chances. Time for you to sleep with them. Vanishing from sight, Naruto appeared behind Erza with a kunai drawn. May your soul rest in peace. Huh? Before the man could even twitch, the kunai severed his spinal cord. Blood spurted from the wound and Erza slumped to the ground, dead before he hit. His powerful winds died away rapidly, the wide canyon moaning as the winds coursed through them as if they knew a life had just been taken. Looking down at the man, Naruto set his lips in a firm line. Leaning down, he closed the man's eyelids inside. Despite having had that conversation with Erza barely half an hour ago, Naruto still closed his own eyes and willed the guilty feeling away. Standing, Naruto took a deep breath, held, and then slowly exhaled as he thought of his old Senin teacher. How did you deal with so many deaths under your belt? If for nothing else but to stop this horrible feeling, I will make your dream a reality. Turning, Naruto began digging into the hard rock behind him barehanded. The ground cut into his hands, but he ignored it. Taking his time, Naruto dug a hole big enough for erza. Placing the body inside, he covered the mound and patted it down. Taking the lone scythe, he stuck it into the head of the grave handle down, the weapon a fitting tombstone for the man. Turning, Naruto cast one last look at the former mage, before closing his eyes and jumping away. Catching up to the group, Naruto landed lightly and ran into the midst of them. The little old man with them looked up at his arrival and grinned. "Oh, Naruto, did you do what you wanted to?" Glancing back at the mage, Naruto nodded. "I did what I had to." The unspoken message ran clear between the two, but everyone else was blissfully unaware. Jumping to his side, Natsu tackled him. "So where'd you go? Why didn't you say? Me and Happy could have come." Grabbing Natsu in a headlock, Naruto proceeded to give him a noogie. "You wanna come? You can't even handle this." Sticking a foot on Naruto's back, Natsu kicked himself free, fists blazing. "I can handle anything you can throw at me. Try handle my flames instead." Diving at Naruto, the blonde laughed and jumped away, landing in front of the group, running a short distance before spinning and engaging Natsu in a fierce fist fight. Lucy sighed as she watched them spar, well tired of the walk and just wanting home. Honestly, how can they have such energy? We haven't eaten in a whole day, slept in 2, and bathed in like 3. Slumping dramatically to the ground, she began crying fake tears. "Won't someone carry me?" Laughing, Levi pulled her to her feet and helped her along. "Just think, the longer it is before you rest, the more you'll appreciate it when you actually get it. Besides, we're nearly at Ashibana. We can catch the train home from there." Crying out happily, Lucy raised a fist and began imagining all the delicious things awaiting them at the guild and the easy trip home. "Oh, I forgot stupid Eisenwald destroyed the train station. Damn them all. Is it too much to just ask for one thing to go right for me?" Slumping to the ground in front of the fenced-off building, Levi patted Lucy's shoulder as the girl cried in frustration. Hearing a roar behind them though, the girls turned to see Erza skid up in another sea vehicle, this one probably twice as long as the last. "Erza, I love you." As the blonde girl flung herself forward to capture the uncomfortable red head in a tight hug, Gray walked around the sea, inspecting the quality and losing clothing pieces along the way. Finishing the rounds, he stood back in nothing but his boxers and whistled. "Wow, Erza, this is a really recent model. Where did you grab this from?" Managing to disentangle herself from the firmly attached girl, Erza pointed down the road at a small shop. "I hired it from there. I even managed to seal a discount with the manager too." "Ah, that explains it then." Shrugging, Gray avoided all thoughts of Erza's usually violent persuasion techniques and climbed into the cabin, now completely naked. Lucy and Levi quickly joined him. The following shriek deafened everyone within hearing range as Gray was booted out to collect his clothing. Once decent, he climbed back inside to find Lucy lying down with her head in Levi's lap, easily making herself comfortable. Catching a flash of white and pink heart underwear as she lifted her legs onto the seat, Gray looked away with a blush. "Lucy, perhaps you shouldn't put your legs up on the seat like that." Growling, Lucy stuffed her hands down to her skirt and managed to partially obscure the view. "Normally I'd thump you for that, but I'm just too tired. I don't care, have your look, let me sleep." Checking again, Gray's blush deepened as he saw no real improvement in the problem. "And the girl gets all high and mighty when she can see my boxers." Looking back out the window, he startled as Naruto's face leaned in. Seeing where he was looking, Gray pushed him out. "Have you no shame?" Pushing his head back in, Naruto peeked through Gray's fingers splayed across his face. "What you talking about? She said it's fine this once, so how could I say no?" Scowling at the blatant forwardness, Gray looked over at Lucy as she ignored Naruto getting a clean eyeful. "Come on you lazy girl, cover up." Rolling over, Lucy mumbled something like, "Shut up, sleeping." "Awa." Seeing the view cut off, Naruto let his head be pushed from the wagon and leant back. He looked down and saw Makarov standing beside him. Grinning, Naruto's eyes sparkled. "Nice view." Nodding, Makarov gave him a thumbs up. "Good show, my boy. I only wish I could have seen. Now, care to help an old man through the door? Laughing, Naruto opened it wide and bowed as the master literally climbed inside. Looking over, Naruto finally saw Natsu standing back, staring at the horrible contraption as he slowly turned green. Looking up at Erza, the girl sighed. Just throw him in. It makes things 100 times easier. Shrugging, Naruto walked over, picked the boy up and threw him head first onto the floor. Closing the door, he smiled up at Erza. All done. Raising an eyebrow, Erza glanced back. You're not getting in? Nope. Jumping, Naruto landed on the roof. Getting on. Rolling her eyes, the S-rank mage slowly started pumping some juice into the engine and pulled out towards home. The trip home was fairly uneventful, except for that one time Naruto fell asleep on the roof and fell off. Erza's driving was also a great deal calmer than it had been on the way out to Clover 2. Despite still being low on power, she refused to let anyone else drive, but was a great deal more careful about it. It took a few hours, but eventually, they reached Magnolia and pulled up outside the gates of Fairytail. Looking out the windows, everyone gushed happily at seeing the familiar sight, all very ready for food and sleep. As they were all climbing out, Mira and a couple of the other guild members came out to meet them. Master, it's so good to see you all back here safe and sound. I trust it wasn't too much trouble. Jumping down from the driver's seat, Erza landed lightly before the cheerful woman and smiled. No, it wasn't too much of a hassle. Lullaby was defeated and the guild masters are all safe. There was a little collateral damage, but nothing extensive. Sighing, Mira shook her head. Like always, I suppose. And what with you, Natsu and Gray together, I'm actually relieved there wasn't more damage. Lifting a very sick Natsu out of the car, Lucy looked over. You heard what was destroyed? Nodding, Mira put a hand on her cheek. Oh, this and that. Something about a train station destroyed, and sea vehicle wrecked, the guild master's hall damaged, just the usual. Sliding his shirt off, Gray shook his head. Not damaged, completely gone. Nothing was left. Blinking a few times, Mira processed the information and just smiled again. Oh well, I guess it couldn't have been avoided. Sliding the boy's feet to the ground, Lucy looked over at Mira suspiciously. You seem to be taking this very well. The barmaid didn't reply and just walked forward, making to help out with Natsu, but stopped dead when a wave of BO hit her. Pinching her nose, the white-haired girl recoiled. Pong, how long has it been since any of you have had a shower? A pair of filthy arms reached around her waist from behind, lifting her off the ground with a squeal. Oh, about a day or two, supplemented by a lot of running and sweating. Miss us, Mira-chan. Naruto, not again. Squirming around as the blonde laughed, his captive only succeeded in rubbing more dirt and gunk into her clean clothes. Finally putting her down, Naruto jumped back and avoided the swipe. I take that as yes? Clicking her tongue, Mira held her arms out as she looked at herself in resignation. Honestly, Naruto, I hope this doesn't become a normal thing. This is really... Wait, you can understand me. How? Chuckling, Naruto scratched the back of his head. It's still not perfect yet. I just make lots of clone and learn from them. I left a few in each city to learn. Mouth opening slightly in surprise, Mira found herself nodding. So that must have been how Naruto-chan picked up everything so quickly. I thought she was just really talkative. Who? Seeing a blonde wander out with a sultry twist in her hips, Naruto slapped his face. Oh, her. I forget. Bowing forward, the clone gave Naruto a fine view down her top and winked at him, blowing him a kiss. Makarov jumped up beside Naruto, love hearts floating from his eyes as he inspected the sight. What a beauty. Maybe she could be a cover girl for our guild. Mira looked down at her fondly and laid a hand on her shoulder. Naruto-chan here proved to be exceptionally popular with the boys. Business has doubled these last 2 days. Nodding, Naruto let out a sigh. I know, I create her like that. Anyway, I gotta dispel her now. Someone catch me, please. Walking over curiously, Levi rested a hand on his shoulder. Why? What's wrong? Grimacing, Naruto pointed at the clone. She not to spell for so long, I get memory backlash. It hurt like bitch, and I get knocked out for a bit. Sighing, he crossed his fingers. See you on other side. Before anyone could say anything, Naruto popped his clone. Reeling backwards like he had just collected a sledgehammer to the forehead, Naruto's eyes rolled back into his head as he passed out, crushing an ill-prepared levy under him with a cry. Groaning, Naruto rolled over and held his head. Oh damn, someone please get me a drink. Right away. Groaning again, Naruto struggled to open his eyes as a cup was placed to his lips. Here, drink. Thanks. Lifting his head up, Naruto sipped the cool water and sighed as it ran down his throat. That had been a long time coming. Pulling himself up into a sitting position, Naruto rubbed his neck as the headache began to ease. As the pain cleared, a number of fresh memories sprung forward. The clearest of the recollections seemed to be the incredible infatuation most of the males and a few of the females seemed to have with his chest and hips. Naruto actually had trouble remembering most everyone's eyes. He also blushed when he remembered that a buxom brunette glomped him from behind, grabbing a handful of his chest and commenting on them in awe. Shaking his head, Naruto stored that memory away for a later date. It was definitely a keeper. Opening his eye, Naruto saw Mira backing away. You okay now? Nodding, Naruto leant on his knees and took the cup from the girl. Finishing off what was left, he let out a gasp and smacked his lips. Looking around, Naruto noticed this room was a little different to what he had seen before. It was small, tidy, and relatively sparse with pale white walls, the only real thing of interest being a desk in the middle of the room. Noticing his look, Mira explained. This is Master's office. We only let trusted people rest in here. Erza convinced us you would be okay and brought you in here herself. Blinking, Naruto raised his eyebrows. Erza did? Mira-Jane nodded happily. I don't quite know what it was you did, but she seems to have taken a bit of a liking to you. You also seem to have made a bit of an impression on Lucy and Levi too. Giggling, Mira sent him a wink as his eyes widened. I'd better be careful or else you might charm me too. A blush rose to Naruto's cheeks as he processed the information. I didn't mean to, but really? Not answering, Mira placed her hands behind her back and gently swayed back and forth as she looked up and thought. Really what? Impress the girls? Or charm me? Stuttering, Naruto found himself at a rare loss for words. Crinkling her nose, Mira laughed at his shock and reached out, flicking his forehead. I'm just teasing. Come on, you seem fine now, let's go get you some food. Walking in through the door to the mess hall, Naruto found the guild members all shouting loudly and conversing amongst each other in their own unique way. Turning, he headed for a table closet to the bar before a deep voice called out. Naruto, it is good to have you back. Hello? Turning, Naruto found himself squashed against a wide chest as a pair of powerful arms crushed him into it. How was your little adventure? As manly as could be hoped. Slipping free, Naruto looked a long way up and finally saw Elfman's face grinning down at him. Pulling away, Naruto nodded awkwardly and chuckled. Yeah, I suppose it went all right. Fought some dudes, saved some more people, the usual I guess. Cheering loudly, the massive man reached out and slung a single arm around Naruto's shoulders, slamming him back into his chest with a hard thud. Now that's a real man, so honest, yet so powerful. Come, you must meet some more of the guild. Not given a choice, the blonde was dragged over to a long bench and thrown down into a seat. Flinching at the solid landing, Naruto opened an eye and looked up. Hey there, youngster. Last time I saw you, you were dead asleep in Lucy's arms. Say what? When did that happen? Laughing, the man before him raised a mug. My apologies. I was with Natsu and Lucy when they found you after your fall from the air. Lucy was the one who carried you back to the guild. My name is Macau. Trying to accept that Lucy had managed to carry him that whole way alone, Naruto nodded. Good to meet you, Naruto. Extending a hand, the man took it and shook it solidly. Now having a proper chance, Naruto took a look at the man. He seemed normal enough, with his deep blue hair in a short cut, a matching mustache nestled under his thin rectangular nose. Stern, piercing, brown eyes looked at him, a grin below them though lightening their gaze. A dark blue shirt hugged his chest while a white, long-sleeved coat covered that. Naruto couldn't see much else seeming he was sitting down, but wasn't too worried about that. Letting go of his hand, Naruto found a drink pushed in front of him. "Here, have a drink. We can't have a friend thirsty." Turning to look at the new man, Naruto nodded. "Thanks for that. Wakaba. Nice to meet you." Nodding, Naruto couldn't help but stare at the man's strange, dirty blonde hairstyle. It was up in a weird pompadour, the front stiffly extending out over his face in a long cylinder. Beneath that, a pair of slits for eyes stared at him uncannily, a grin matching Macao's on his face. His upper lip, however, was clean-shaven, not following his friend's trend. A pipe poked from his lips, the end glowing softly with every breath he took. Below that was a simple long-sleeved beige coat with a dirty orange shirt revealed beneath. Staring a little longer at his shirt, Naruto wondered how that would look on himself as he absently took a sip of his drink. He instantly sprayed it across the table as the powerful alcohol burnt the back of his throat. The group instantly laughed, Elfman clapping Naruto's back solidly several times to help the boy clear his throat. "Can't handle your liquor, eh? Ha, what a lightweight." Spluttering, Naruto looked around for the source of the voice. "Who said that?" "I did, big guy." Turning, Naruto's eyes widened as he saw the brunette of his memories. Long, full brown hair fell down her back in abundant amounts, curling in on itself, giving the appearance of even more hair. Mischievous dark eyes shone as she eyed him up, a hint of a smirk on her lips. She grinned a little more as she noticed Naruto's eyes drop to her chest. The bold girl had nothing but a dark blue bikini top on, the stretched fabric barely holding back the sizable amounts of flesh hidden behind them. A bag strap was slung over her shoulder, the top of the bag just visibly poking over her hips. A pair of bracelets were clasped around her toned biceps, matched somewhat with the light gray bangles that dangled from her wrists. A strange emblem was imprinted onto her skin in a dark blue, matching the odd carving that sat above the guild name at the front of the door. Below that, though, was a set of simple, light brown three-quarter pants that hugged her hips. Despite all this, though, what drew Naruto's full attention was the massive barrel she had her hand on. Pointing at the thing, Naruto swallowed. "You're drinking that whole thing by yourself." Laughing, she tapped the side of the barrel. "2, actually. What you're looking at is my life support. Can't live without it." Staring at the thing, Naruto didn't really know what to think. "I bet your liver could live quite happily without that." Barking out a single snap of laughter, she picked the thing up, swallowed several huge mouthfuls from a hole in the top, and slammed it back down. "Ain't never troubled me before, and if it does, that's for my future self to worry about. The name's Kana." Nodding, Naruto clicked a finger a few times. Yeah, I remember you. You were the one who jumped me from behind and grabbed my melons." Everyone around the table sprayed their mouthfuls at each other this time, not quite sure they heard correctly. Coughing a bit, Kana wiped her mouth and looked at the blonde incredulously. "Say what?" "You jumped that blonde barmaid Naruto and grabbed her tits." "That was me. Or at least, a clone of me." Macao, Wakaba and Elfman sort of tuned out at that, happily recalling the fine moment. Kana, however, wanted to find out just what the new boy meant. "So, you're saying you somehow cloned yourself, then transformed yourself, and then worked here with Mirajane? So how'd you get the memories?" Naruto nodded. "Yup, that was about it. When I dispel my clones, I gain their memories. Sensations too." He shivered as he rubbed his chest. "You've done something like that before, haven't you? You sure knew what you were doing when you grabbed me." Blushing somewhat, Kana didn't reply and went back to drinking, while the men at the table flushed and began leaking a bit of blood as something ruptured in their nasal cavities. More or less oblivious to the awkward situation he had caused for Kana, Naruto placed his hands to the table and stood up. "Well, it was great meeting you all, but I am totally famished. I'll talk with you in a bit." Leaving, the table fell quiet as the noise raged on around them. 3 sets of eyes zeroed in on Kana as the girl tried to ignore them. Damn her impulsiveness. Stuffing his face, Naruto sucked a chicken leg clean of the meat before cramming a whole loaf of bread into his mouth with his other hand. His rapid eating pace had earned the attention of a few of the guild members, betting beginning to start on how many bowls he would go through. So far, he had licked clean 9. Reaching out for the next plate, Naruto paused to burp loudly before looking up at Mirajane. "So, just a quick question, what's with some of the members having the guild emblem stamped onto them? I know Natsu, Gray, Lucy, Erza and Kana have it, but I haven't seen it on too many other people. Watching Naruto tuck into the next plate with just as much gusto as his first one, Mira headed over to make another one. Oh, we all have them, you just can't see some on them. It's a quick method of identifying which guild you are affiliated with. All guilds have one. I have mine stamped high on my thigh. I'd show you, but I have too much dress to hike up. Struggling not to choke on his mouthful, Naruto thumped his chest and forced down a lump much bigger than first intended. You mean you can get this thing anywhere on your body? Like anywhere, anywhere? Nodding, Mira took the brief opportunity to clean up Naruto's old plates. Yup, I've even heard of a couple of mages getting their stamp on their backsides. Imagining Mira getting her stamp on her bum, a pervy look oozed onto his face as a small sliver of drool slipped from his lip. Giggling, Mira flicked him with a towel. Oi, stop thinking what I know you're thinking, or I'll stop the food. Instantly coming back, Naruto dived into his plate and began destroying the food with renewed vigor. After finishing his meal, Naruto had decided to go for a light jog to help digest his meal. He was surprised to find he'd been out of it most of the day, as it was now coming into the twilight hour. Jumping to the roofs, Naruto took one look around and forgot about his run. The city had just started to light up, the gentle glow of street lights and town houses casting soft light into the growing shadows as the sky above shifted colors from a deep blue to purple and then to red. Before he knew it, Naruto found himself lying on the top of the guild staring out at Magnolia. Resting his head back on his hands, a small smile crept to his lips as the young couples began emerging, walking arm in arm around the pretty rivers. Hearing movement behind him, Naruto looked up to see a shock of white climb over the roof apex. Ah, there you are. Sliding down beside Naruto, Murajane adopted a position much like Naruto's, hands behind her head with one leg up and resting on the other's bent knee. Looking back out over the city, Naruto watched as the light in the sky began to be replaced by the light of the land. So how did you find me? Smiling, Mira looked up to the stars in the sky. Oh, it took a little bit, but then I thought you might be up here because I used to come up here when I was younger. Pursing his lips, Naruto looked across. How did you even get up here anyway? It's a big climb for the average person. Smirking, Mira tapped her nose. I wasn't always like this, you know. I'm still classified as an S-rank mage. Turning his head so he could fully look at her, Naruto raised an eyebrow. You? But you're so, I don't know, soft and girly. I couldn't imagine you like Erza. Laughing, Mira looked up in remembrance. You'd be surprised. I was the one that used to start fights with her. Snorting, Naruto looked up at the sky. Well, I am surprised. Big, tough Murajane is rank mage of fairytail. Gently hitting his arm, Mira rolled her eyes. Stop making it sound like I'm a brute. I don't take quests anymore. I just work here as the barmaid and the fairytail cover girl. That spiked Naruto's interest. Cover girl, you say? Mira poked her tongue out and winked. I knew that'd get your attention. Yes, I have posed several times for the Sorcerer magazine. Beaming, Naruto pushed himself up onto an elbow. Know where I can find one of these magazines? Grinning coyly, Mira raised an eyebrow. What? You'd rather look at a photo when the real thing is right here? Pausing, Naruto thought that one over. She never did say if she was dressed differently for the photos, so sighing, Naruto poked his tongue out at her. Guess you got a point. But at least I can look at a picture for as long as I want without anyone calling me a pervert. Lifting her arms, Mira stretched. I never said I'd call you anything like that. Finding himself a little out of his depth, Naruto bit his lip as he tried to come back with something witty. His brain had seemed to abandon ship though, and he was left just staring at the girl as she stretched. She seemed to be holding the pose for a little while too, but Naruto just threw that down to his imagination. Her gentle voice broke through his trance eventually, and he managed to pull his eyes away. So, how come you're speaking so clearly now? Surely one clone popping wouldn't make such a noticeable difference. Having something else to focus on now, Naruto leant back in thought. Well, no one ever really told me this, but I think I've worked it out over time. Pretend I make 5 clones. 1 pops. Myself, plus the other 4 get that information. Then another pops. The rest of us get 2 clones worth of information. A third pops. That's 3 clones worth of information back to me. You might say, oh, but that's just the same information all along. But I think because each clone has an independence of its own, it digests the information different, meaning I get a whole other view on what was absorbed. So with Naruto, it wasn't only her memories I got. It was hers plus however many hundred before her. Bright eyes widening as she processed the information, Mira sucked in a slow breath. So, this isn't really an additional style of learning, more like a multiplication. Having a think, Naruto shrugged. Yeah, I guess. Never really thought about it that deep before. Frowning, Mary Jane started ticking away her fingers as she ran some math through her head. Hang on, if that's the case, that's more like squaring the number. Naruto, you might have absorbed over 10,000 clone memories. No wonder you were knocked out. A vacant look entered Naruto's eyes as he tried to understand what Mira just revealed to him. He didn't struggle with it too long, however. Math never really interested him. Shrugging again, he clasped his hand behind his head. That's kinda cool, I suppose. Casting an amused glance over at the blonde, Mira just shook her head. The only other person Mira could think of that could blow something like that off was Natsu. Turning her gaze back to the sky, the two fell into silence, the soft murmur of crowds in the distance gently washing over them. Clouds rolled through the sky slowly as a mild breeze pushed them through the night air. Suddenly, a bright streak of light shot across the dark sky, lighting it up for a moment of brilliance before fading into nothingness. Gasping, Mira pushed herself up, eyes shining in awe. Naruto, that was the biggest one I have seen in years. Quick, make a wish. Looking at the girl with a confused expression, Naruto didn't move. Why would I do that? Raising an eyebrow, Mira looked down. Don't you know? When you see a falling star, you make a wish and it might come true. Eyes wide, Naruto pushed himself up. No way, I can't believe I missed out for so long. I wish someone would have told me that sooner. Giggling, Murajane covered her mouth. Didn't your parents or friends ever tell you about that? Chuckling sheepishly, Naruto scratched his bicep and looked away. Seeing him draw into himself, Mira wondered if she said something wrong. He answered though before she could voice her concern. Well, I'm an orphan, so I never really had anyone there to tell me that. I never really had any friends either until within the last few years, and by that stage, I guess that they'd just forgotten. Gasping softly, Mira's eyebrows crinkled in sorrow for the boy. Oh, Naruto, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Chuckling again, he met her eyes. That's all right. It might have been a little lonely, but I turned out okay, so there's nothing to worry about. His eyes then thinned to slits as he gave his friend a wide grin. Infected like most people, Mira couldn't help but smile back softly. Well, in that case, I'll make my wish now. Closing her eyes for a moment, Mira frowned in concentration before smiling and opened her eyes. Okay, your turn. Nodding, Naruto scrunched his eyes closed as he focused on his wish. I wish to be Hokage someday. I wish to be Hokage someday. I wish. His mind trailed off as a set of soft lips tenderly pressed themselves onto his cheek. They held the position for a moment before pulling away. Raising a hand to his cheek, Naruto looked over at Mira as she leaned back, a beautiful smile on her face. What was that for? She cast him a warm gaze, and her smile widened at his confusion. It was my wish. I wished you would never feel lonely again. The next day greeted Naruto with a hearty breakfast and then a light jog around town. It ended up turning into a game of tag after Natsu, and Happy managed to find him and everything went downhill from there. Many an innocent stand was overturned in their joy, their boisterous activity creating enough of a racket that they couldn't hear the vicious insults hurled at them as they left their trail of destruction. The game eventually ended with Naruto choking out Natsu, Happy squawking discontentedly from between Naruto's legs. Come on, say uncle, you know you want to. Just give up, it'll be easy. Natsu's face began turning purple, but he resiliently held firm, gurgling incoherently. Naruto continued to laugh until he felt Natsu's flapping subside, at which he looked down. Seeing no movement, he released the hold. You okay there, Natsu? Slamming into Naruto's back full force, Happy started pouncing on his shirt, tears streaming down his cheeks. You killed Natsu. Why would you kill Natsu? We had such a full and happy life together. His rant was cut short as Natsu's hands exploded into flame. Naruto quickly found himself in a tight hold, not all that well constructed but rigid enough for him to be unable to escape. "Ha, you say uncle, just do it, you know you can't win now. Bow before my awesomeness." Shifting his mouth from under Natsu's armpit, Naruto spluttered for a moment before giving up. All right, I can't take any more of your armpit." Releasing him, Natsu jumped high in the air and began running circles around the blonde as he wiped off his tongue, desperately trying to rid the flavor. Spitting one last time, Naruto made a foul face before standing. Dusting himself down, Naruto grabbed the boy and his cat as they passed him again. "So where were you two going anyway? I mean, before tag?" Their eyes widened as their previous mission was remembered. "Oh yeah, that's right. We were off to Lucy's house. We always visit her. Wanna come?" Shrugging, Naruto gave in. "Yeah, sure, why not? What's she usually doing this time?" Tapping a finger against his chin, Natsu looked at Happy. "Well, sometimes she's writing stuff, but mostly she's in the middle of having a shower." Grinning, Naruto placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. "Lead the way." "Ah, nothing quite beats a morning soak. It's what every growing girl needs. Maybe I should write some more while I have a morning off." Wiping away the last of the water droplets, Lucy wrapped the towel around herself and stepped out into her lounge room. Steam billowed out the door and she waved her hand around, clearing her vision. What she didn't expect to see was Natsu and Happy stretched out on her bed, Gray relaxing in her chair near naked, and Naruto sifting through her desk. Looking over, Gray raised a hand. "Yo, how was the shower?" Eyes growing wide, Lucy pointed at him disbelievingly. "What the hell are you doing here?" Looking over, Natsu picked his nose. "I dunno, hey. We met him along the way and he came for some reason. I didn't invite him." Launching out with a kick, Lucy upturned her mattress and sent the boy and his cat to the floor. "That's not what I was asking. I want to know why you all are even here." Looking up from under the bed, Natsu pouted. "Well we came to say good morning and see if you had any food. Happy found some fish but not much else, so I was waiting till you got out to see if you had a secret stash somewhere." Pointing at the door, Lucy stomped her foot. "Leave, now." Crawling out, Natsu started whining. "But why me? Why do Gray and Naruto get to stay? All of you." A cold shiver went down her back as Naruto let out an amused laugh. "This stuff ain't half bad. You write this?" Screaming, she dashed forward and snatched the papers from Naruto's hands, body checking the blonde into the wall. "Don't read that." Sitting up, Naruto raised an eyebrow. "What's wrong? It wasn't that bad." Clutching them to her chest, Lucy wriggled around uncomfortably. "But it's not ready to be read yet. It's embarrassing." Letting out a bark of laughter, Naruto shook his head. "No, that's not embarrassing, even the bits of kissing and stuff in it. You should have read my sensei's stuff. It was basically porn in words. That was embarrassing. I had to proofread his books." Looking at him incredulously as he shivered, Lucy then glanced down at the sheets by her chest. "How much did you read?" Naruto shrugged. "I don't know, about half of it." Blushing heavily at the knowledge of what he saw and how closely he came to seeing a whole lot more than just kissing, Lucy pointed at the door. "Out, all of you, get out." No one moved except Natsu, who dropped back onto the bed. "But Lucy, it's boring. Besides, you have such a nice house. It's comfy and smells nice." Naruto nodded in agreement while Gray started shuffling around. "Yeah, I can't really say how good it smells, but it really is pleasant for the cost of the rent." Lucy then froze as a pair of dark boxers floated over the chair, landing smack on her face. The three males and one cat now found themselves sitting on the street, Naruto poking fun at Natsu and Gray, being the only one who escaped a beating from the slight girl. After living with Sakura for so long, dodging or at least attempting to dodge furious female punches was just as ingrained into his defenses as blocking with a kunai was. It took a while, but eventually Lucy came wandering out. Her eyes closed in frustration as she locked the door behind her. Tucking the key away safely into her belt, she turned and sighed. "Honestly, it's bad enough you two came, but Naruto, I thought you'd be more mature about that." Looking up innocently, Naruto pointed at Natsu. He said he visits all the time. How was I meant to know you didn't like it? Glaring at him for a moment, Lucy nodded. Well, all right. But just this once I'll let you off. Walking between them, Lucy ended up by the river that ran past her house and stretched. So, what are we doing today? Natsu jumped up, eyes blazing as an idea sprung to mind. I know. How about we go challenge Erza to a fight? I could totally beat her this time around. Looking at him worriedly, Lucy wondered about his mental state. Gray just smirked and looked up. Really? You do remember the time before? And the time before that? And the time before that? Natsu just grinned and slammed a fist into his palm. Nah, I'll definitely win this time. I can feel it. Shrugging, Gray rose to his feet. Might as well go watch. It's always entertaining watching Natsu get his head kicked in. Lucy, Naruto? You coming? Lucy nodded hesitantly after a moment, but Naruto shook his head. Nah, I gotta go check on some stuff. I'll come around later. Suit yourself. You're missing out on a free laugh, but... Hey, I already said I'd win. I'll believe it when I see it. Fine, happy, let's go. Dashing off down the street, Natsu went in search of Erza, while Gray and Lucy finished up with Naruto. So you're sure you don't want to come? Shaking his head again, Naruto held his hands out apologetically. No, I really do need to check on these things. Catch you later, yeah? Nodding, the two bid their goodbyes and left, Lucy waving over her head a while longer than Gray. Sighing as he watched them leave, Naruto turned and started running. Heading out of town, Naruto slowed to a stop once clear of prying eyes and calmed himself. Quickly drawing on the natural energy, Naruto felt himself fill with the power surrounding him and opened his eyes. A quick check around verified no one was watching, and he took off again, double his previous speed. Heading for the beacon of chakra he had left behind, Naruto frowned. He was becoming too attached to the people here and the peace. It was a lovely holiday and almost everyone here were wonderful people, but there were pressing matters at home he just couldn't ignore. Who knew what happened after the whole pain episode? He still had that unresolved thing with Hinata too. Jumping over a tree, Naruto landed easily and began cutting through the forest, bypassing the path in favor of a straight line. He just wished he knew how Kakashi-sensei's kamui authority of the gods worked. Did it just send his targets to this one dimension? Or were there multiple dimensions? Did he even have control over where they were sent? These were just 3 questions Naruto wished he could answer, and he guessed there were heaps of others that he hadn't thought of. Pondering these thoughts, Naruto reached his destination within 15 minutes, skidding to a stop beside the still airborne blue mist. Nothing had changed except the amount of the stuff, Kakashi's chakra a good deal smaller than when he visited last. Now that he was here though, there wasn't a lot Naruto could do that he hadn't already tried. So sitting down, Naruto deactivated Senjutsu Sage techniques, closed his eyes and began to think. So what now? This is like my only way home. How am I meant to follow Kakashi's chakra into infinity? Alright Naruto, consider your options. What can I do that might open it up? Kakashi's chakra is one thing. But how would I use it to open the hole? Maybe I could use it to crack a new hole beside it. Or I don't know. Seals, perhaps? It could work. But I don't think I know enough yet, probably should have listened more to Iro Senin. So that could work. But with a lot of studying, but then maybe. Opening his eyes, Naruto found himself in the sewer of his mind. Looking around, he frowned. When did I get dragged in here? Turning to the familiar foul tunnel, Naruto began walking. The oppressive chakra mass he had been captor to his whole life steadily grew as he neared the end. Finally reaching the entrance, Naruto turned and looked up at the massive cage now before him. What do you want? A deep rumbling growl echoed through the cavern as a pair of enormous bloodshot eyes opened and focused on him. They moved closer to the bars of the cage and dropped, so they were only a mere 20 feet above his head. Thin lips then pulled back, revealing a mouth packed full of gleaming white teeth as the demon began to speak. Brat, you know what I always want. To get this thrice-damned seal off my cage. And I was so close, so close. Slamming its head against the bars in a momentary loss of temper, the whole room shook from the power of the blow, a loud boom echoing down the surrounding tunnels. To think that your pathetic hawkage managed to seal me yet again. But enough of that. I've been trying to contact you, but it seems I haven't been able to get through till now. It must have something to do with a Titan seal. What I want to know is what this putrid chakra you've been filling my realm with is." Frowning, Naruto looked around. Nothing seemed different. "What are you on about? Nothing's different." Growling again, the fox shivered in barely constrained rage. "Don't mock me, human. You damn well know what I mean. Ever since that incompetent sensei of yours managed to teach you his senjutsu sage techniques, you fill this place with natural energy. Recently, however, this new undesirable natural energy floods the place." Holding his hands out, Naruto looked around again. "But where is this energy?" Finally losing it, the fox lashed out, slamming its massive head against the cage wall. "Are you honestly that dense? Activate that senjutsu sage techniques of yours and draw the energy in here." Frowning as he was scolded, Naruto looked away and began to draw upon the nature around him. While he wasn't one to usually listen to the demon's demands, this one made him curious. When he felt the levels even out, Naruto's eyes widened in surprise as the fox spat off to the corner, its fur bristling as its energy warded off the invading energy. "This is what I want to know. What is this?" Looking around in awe, Naruto shook his head. "I really don't know." The actual reason for Naruto's awe and the fox's discomfort was floating in the air around them. A soft gold light had flooded the place, denser amounts here and there clumping together to produce brighter spots that vaguely resembled little stars. All in all, it was quite beautiful. The fox, however, seemed to think otherwise. "Well, find out. This is nothing like the normal energies I'm used to. Its presence disgusts me, not to mention it keeps trying to enter me." Snarling, the Kyuubi unleashed a powerful wave of chakra which bowled Naruto head over heels as it tried to force the gold light back. Landing against the far wall, he looked up at the Kyuubi in a daze. "Find out what this stuff is and then tell me what you find. I will not be contaminated by it." Naruto shook his head as he cleared the last of the stars. "But why do you hate it so much? It feels normal, doesn't it?" Casting an eye around the room, the fox shook its fur. "I never trust what I do not yet know. Now will you tell me about this when you find out, or will I have to drag it from you?" Ignoring the threat, Naruto realized this could be an opportunity to find a way home. "All right, but I want something in return. I'll find out what this is, and when I do, you help me find a way back home. Deal?" Frowning, the fox looked at him. "Home?" Naruto nodded. "I've been transported to some weird new dimension far from the elemental nations. I have no idea how to get back though, and I really need to." The fox nodded as it understood the situation. "So that's what happened earlier. This won't be easy with you being limited to but 3 dimensions, but I wish to stay in this wretched dimension even less than you do. You have yourself an accord." Grinning up at the fox, Naruto stood. "Good. I'll go talk with Mira-chan now and see if I can clear this up. You be okay to hold this off a little longer." Blasting out another shockwave, Naruto covered his face as the power of the demon buffered him. "Do not mock me, vermin. Get out of my sight and uphold your end of the bargain." Not wishing to agitate the beast any more than he should, Naruto merely closed his eyes and faded from sight. Coming to, Naruto looked down at his hands and opened and clenched them several times. Despite his secret amusement at the fox's hatred of the odd gold light, Naruto found it incredibly fascinating. It didn't feel too much different from the natural energy of his world, but whatever it was seemed to want to merge with the fuzz bag. Standing, Naruto looked at the slowly circling ball of chakra hanging in the air. Standing here wouldn't solve anything, so turning, Naruto leapt to the nearest tree and kicked off into the air. Mira-chan, I got some questions for you." Bounding into the mess hall, Naruto avoided the flying tables with ease as he ran around the growing bar fight, heading for where he knew the white-haired woman worked. Skidding to a stop in front of the bar, Naruto belted a chair clean out of the air from behind him without even looking back. "Mira-chan." Laughing, she walked over, drying her hands on a towel. "Yes, Naruto, I heard you the first 2 times. What can I do for you?" Pointing at the mess behind him, Naruto raised his voice over the growing noise. "Can we go outside quickly? I really need to ask you some questions." Smiling apologetically, Mira gestured to the dirty bar and the patrons waiting to be served. "I'm sorry, But I have work that can't be left. Maybe later? Shaking his head, Naruto pushed on. But what if you could have some help, just while you're gone? I suppose that could work. Woo! Crossing his fingers, 3 female clones appeared beside him, all dressed in skimpy-made outfits. Quickly getting to work, the fight behind them quickly fell apart as the men realized their favorite barmaid was back, and in greater quantity too. Grabbing Mira's hand, Naruto pulled her over the bench top and then ran with her up and out of the room, the girl laughing all the way. Entering the main hall, Naruto spotted a clear table and aimed for it. Helping Mira-Jane into her seat, Naruto dropped down in front of her, grinning happily. Sighing at his boisterousness, Mira folded her hands on the table. So what is it you have to ask me? Now actually confronted with the question, Naruto paused as he considered how he should word it. He couldn't just out and say, "Hey, there's a big demon fox in my gut, and he wants to know what the glowing light inside my head is." So frowning, he slowly trod around the question. Well, I'm actually wondering what is up with the energy here. In my home dimension, I have learned how to absorb nature energy to boost certain areas of myself, like strength and endurance. However, everything here feels different. The energy in the atmosphere is, I don't know, just different. And I also went inside my own mind while meditating before, and saw it filled with this golden light. Would you have any idea what that could be? Frowning as Naruto explained, Mira chewed on the inside of her mouth for a moment. So, you can actually pull the energy of nature into yourself. Naruto nodded. But otherwise it isn't in there naturally. Naruto shook his head. No, a problem with learning this actually comes from being overwhelmed by the natural energy. Lose yourself to it and you turn into a toad statue. Mira's eyes widened when she heard this. Really? That's odd. Tell me about that later though. You also say you can enter your mind. How do you mean? Scratching his head, Naruto struggled for an answer. Well, actually, it's more like a giant room I guess. I sometimes go down there, but not much. But yeah, while I was there, I drew in some of the natural energy, and yeah, the room then filled with gold light. Still not quite understanding the room explanation, Mira let it go. The gold light though, she knew what that most probably was. She just had to identify something first. Naruto, this chakra you are always talking about, where does it come from? Scratching his head, Naruto frowned. Well, inside me. I generate it and stuff. We were told exactly how in academy, but that was so boring I slept through it. Or flicked boogers at the teacher. Why is that though? Mira held up a hand. I'll answer in a second. So you say that this chakra comes from within? That there isn't any other chakra in the air or anything like that? Naruto looked up in thought. Well no, I don't think so. At least, I can never remember anyone saying so. Nodding, Mira was fairly sure what everything was now. Okay, I think I can help you now. You say that your chakra is created inside you. Well, as mages, we can't do that. We actually absorb it from the atmosphere in the form of something called Eternano. We store that in a container within ourselves, and that then is what we call upon to create our magic. Naruto pursed his lips as he digested the information. So you say that everyone who lives here is a mage because everyone's power is in the air? Mira shook her head. No, only about 10% of the population is able to actively use magic. It takes a great deal of concentration and will to use magic. Oh. A smile slipped onto Naruto's face, though when an idea crossed his mind. Hey, seeming I can pull this stuff into me, does that mean I could learn magic? Mira's eyes lit up in thought. Well, I suppose you might be able to. I doubt it though. You have to be born with the ability. Not ready to let go of that idea just yet, Naruto started jiggling around, his infectious smile shining brightly. Hey, could you show me how anyway, just in case I can? Please? 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 Rolling her eyes, Mira sighed. Fine, I suppose so. Where do you want to try? Standing, Naruto started walking to the door. I really like that big open plain out behind the city. Can we go there? Frowning, Mira shook her head. That's a bit far. It'd take us too long. Grinning, Naruto stuck his tongue out. Nah, I can get us there quick. Like, within a minute or 2 or maybe 5. But still, please? Raising an eyebrow, Mira studied him. He didn't seem to be lying. How would you do that exactly? Swooping in, Naruto swept the girl off her feet and picked her up bridal style. Naruto, what are you doing? Laughing, Naruto ran to the door. Just watch, this is how. And with a startled scream from Mira, Naruto launched the two of them high above the roofs with a mighty jump. Landing a few minutes later, Naruto landed and dropped his passenger, who was still laughing after the exhilarating experience. That was amazing. I've never seen anyone travel like that. Stepping back, Naruto scratched his head happily. Yeah, well, that's how all us ninja travel around my village. So yeah, back to my training. Shaking her head at the insatiable boy, Mira sighed. All right, well first, enter this energized state you have been telling me about. Nodding, Naruto stilled. It took a few moments, but he opened his eyes, revealing the transformation. Staring intently into his eyes, Mira gasped softly as she took an unconscious step forward. Wow, this is a byproduct of this state. Your eyes, though they look so much like a frog's. And the eyeshadow beautiful. Naruto started looking around awkwardly as Mira edged ever closer, her hand reaching out to touch his orange-rimmed eyelids. Coughing, he tried to smile. Yeah, they're more like a toad's. It's called Senjutsu Sage Techniques. Realizing her close proximity, Mira blinked a few times before blushing and stepping back, a hand on her face. Oh, please excuse me, I do get carried away sometimes. So, time to practice. Seeing Naruto nod eagerly, Mira giggled. Magic is a physical embodiment of the spirit. First thing you need to do is reach out with your spirit and touch the flow of energy within you. Can you do that? Frowning, Naruto closed his eyes as he internally reached around. I'm trying. What's next? Mira HM'd as she thought. Well, after that, it kind of just happens. Whatever you're naturally affiliated with will most likely happen. Like with Natsu and his flames. Not responding, Naruto continued to dig around inside himself, desperately trying to touch his spirit with the energy filling his body. Mira fell quiet as she watched him struggle, rather impressed with how determined Naruto was to obtaining a magical ability. As he worked, Mira slowly became aware of a hint of something in the air. She couldn't quite put her finger on what it was, but it felt familiar. It quickly faded, however, leaving Mira with a slight hint of disappointment. Naruto seemed to grow fidgety after this, and within a few moments, opened his eyes. Sighing in frustration, Naruto scratched his head. Nah, nothing. And here I was getting all excited too. Shrugging, Mira smiled at him comfortingly. Well, anyone who can use magic is born with it. I thought you may have been an exception, what with you being able to draw it in, but I guess not. I thought I felt something there for a moment, but it turned out to be nothing. Widening his eyes, Naruto looked at her. Really? I didn't feel anything. Mira sighed. Ah well, not to worry. You can do a lot of things most of us can do anyway, such as transform, so there's nothing to be ashamed of. Grumping to himself, Naruto begrudgingly accepted the fact that magic looked like it was impossible for him. Didn't mean he wouldn't try again later though. Looking to liven up the mood, Mira smiled and tapped his shoulder. Come on, chin up. Anyway, I just had an idea. You should totally start a daily diary. Looking at her with an unimpressed glance, Naruto raised an eyebrow. Isn't that stuff for girls? I got better things to be doing with my time. Frowning, Mira stood back, hands on her hips. I'll have you know it is not girly. My brother Elfman has one, and he's the manliest guy in the whole guild. Naruto raised an eyebrow. That massive human is your brother? I suppose it makes sense, though he does have your hair. Nodding once, Mira then walked up to him and poked his chest. That's right, and he does write a diary, and now so will you. Take me back to the guild and we'll get started. She then jumped, fully trusting Naruto to catch her in his arms. Shouting out in surprise, he just grabbed her and looked down at the smug girl. What's wrong with you? I could have dropped you. Shrugging, Mira looked up at him with a wide smile. But you didn't, did you? You're such a gentleman. Grumbling to himself, Naruto started running before taking a large leap and soaring to the roofs. Within a few minutes from the initial suggestion, Naruto was now seated before a little book with Mira hovering over him. Come on, just write down something, anything. Who knows, you do this, and it may help you find a way home. Naruto pouted at the gentle pressuring and crossed his arms with a huff. But I don't wanna. Grabbing a cheek, Mira squealed softly and shook his face. Aw, you are so cute. Come on Naruto, you can do this, for me. It was then Naruto realized just how deadly this woman could be. Upon turning to look up at her in annoyance, Naruto was subjected to the most wide, starry-eyed look of all time. Her mouth was curled up in a tiny smile while both hands were clasped beneath her chin in the most endearing way. Any future complaints instantly died on his tongue after a few moments of being subjected to the look. It was near impossible to resist, and Naruto couldn't help but wonder just what this girl had been doing to practice such a devastating technique. Turning and beginning to write, Naruto couldn't help but wonder if he'd be able to get Naruto to make the same face. Finishing off scribbling, Naruto dropped the pen, closed the book and stood up. Turning to Mira, he held it out. Here you go, you hold on to it if you so desperately want me to keep writing in it. I'd shred it within a day. Smiling, Mira took it and slipped it down her top. Naruto instantly froze and stared at where it disappeared, wondering how the book managed to get so lucky. Patting it, Mira then winked at Naruto. I'll find you tomorrow and we can work on it from there. Now scoot, I have work to do. Watching the extremely friendly woman slowly turn and stroll away, Naruto shook his head. That girl was a mystery. It seemed like she enjoyed seeing Naruto flustered. Must be why she was Fairytail's cover girl. Evil woman. Remembering his deal with the Kyuubi, Naruto ran outside and jumped into the guild roof. Settling himself, he closed his eyes and let his consciousness fade. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Lanky Nathan on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.